The forgotten cries of Ethiopia, a nation bleeding in silence. In the heart of the Horn of Africa, a silent genocide unfolds. Ethiopia, a nation known for its ancient civilization, its cultural heritage and its proud history of independence, is today drowning in rivers of blood. Villages are razed, children starve, women are violated and communities vanish overnight. Yet the world looks away. The same international institutions that speak loudly about human rights in public forums whisper nothing when it comes to Ethiopia's pain. The genocide in Ethiopia is not new. It is a continuation of decades of ethnic tension, political corruption, and the thirst for absolute power. But since the outbreak of the Tigray conflict in late 2020, the violence has reached unimaginable levels. What began as a political dispute between the central government and the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, has turned into a brutal war against entire populations. Civilians have become targets. Reports from Tigray, Amhara, Oromia, and Afar regions describe scenes that echo Rwanda's dark history of 1994, massacres, systematic rape used as a weapon of war, forced starvation and mass graves. Satellite images confirm burned villages. Witnesses recount how ethnic minorities are hunted down, how the elderly are left to die without food or medicine, and how hospitals are destroyed deliberately. The world has been here before. We said, never again. Yet again it is happening and again no one moves. A state of hunger and desperation. Millions are now displaced, living in makeshift camps where disease and famine kill more than bullets. Aid organizations are blocked from entering certain zones, journalists are silenced, and the government continues to deny responsibility. In some regions, hunger itself has become a weapon, food withheld as punishment for belonging to the wrong ethnicity. Children's bodies, thin as paper, tell a story of cruelty beyond words. International relief agencies have repeatedly warned that Ethiopia faces one of the worst humanitarian crises in modern history. Yet global leaders respond with empty statements. The United Nations issues concerns. The European Union threatens sanctions. The African Union calls for dialogue. But none of this stops the killing. None of this brings justice. The media's complicity through silence. Perhaps one of the most shameful aspects of this tragedy is the silence of the Western media. The same networks that dedicate endless coverage to wars in Europe offer only seconds, if any, to the agony of Ethiopians. When Black lives are destroyed in Africa, they are treated as statistics, not as human beings. This selective empathy, this hierarchy of suffering, is racism hidden under diplomatic language. The Western press talks endlessly about defending democracy, but ignores when democratic principles are crushed in Africa. Why? Because Ethiopia has no oil to sell, no strategic military bases to offer, and no white population to make headlines relatable. The suffering of Africans has been normalized, accepted as part of a continent of crises. That normalization is part of the genocide itself. The government's crimes and global hypocrisy. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed once received the Nobel Peace Prize for ending war with Eritrea. Today that same peace laureate stands accused of war crimes. His government's forces alongside Eritrean troops have been implicated in atrocities too horrific to describe. Massacres in Aksum, mass rapes in Tigray, executions in Amhara, and indiscriminate bombings in Oromia. The international community gave him a prize, then gave him weapons. Western governments continue to provide aid to a regime that uses hunger and terror as political tools. China and Russia, eager to expand their influence, supply military equipment and political cover. The African Union, headquartered in Addis Ababa, remains silent, afraid to criticize one of its own. This is not diplomacy, it is complicity. Every dollar sent to this government, every silence from a world leader, every muted headline, all of it fuels the genocide. Where is humanity? Where are the human rights defenders who claim to speak for justice? Where are the global protests that fill streets when other wars erupt? Where is the outrage, the moral clarity, the compassion? Ethiopia's children deserve the same attention, the same humanity as any other child in this world. This is not about politics anymore. It is about survival, about whether we, as a global society, will allow another genocide to unfold under our watch. The blood of Tigrayans, Amharas, Oromos, Afars, all of them, cries out from the soil of Ethiopia. Call to action. The genocide in Ethiopia must stop, now. The international community must impose a total arms embargo on all warring parties. Independent investigators must be granted unrestricted access to all regions. Humanitarian aid must flow freely. Perpetrators, no matter how powerful, must face international justice. Silence is no longer an option. To ignore this genocide is to participate in it. Every voice matters. Journalists, activists, politicians, citizens. If we remain indifferent, we are no better than the hands that pull the trigger. Conclusion. Ethiopia's tragedy is not only an African story, it is a human story, a mirror reflecting our collective failure to defend life when it is most vulnerable. The genocide must end, and the world must finally learn that no nation's suffering is worth less than another's. Justice delayed is justice denied. And Ethiopia has waited long enough.